As I'm slowly approaching the end of the adventure era of 3D Sonic games, I'm realizing I have to change my approach in how I'm going to cover Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06. We'll save the latter for when we get there. For Shadow, it has a number of quirks that I have not seen before in a 3D platformer. There is the ever-growing ambition I'm noticing with each sequel, more on that later, and then there's the flaws that made this entry so infamous among fans. So infamous in fact that a fan-made mod was made that fixed many of these perceived problems. So how are we going to do this? Simple. I'm going to dedicate the first part of this video to do a quick review of the single playthrough I did of the game as it was experienced by everyone in 2005. I'll tell you what I like and did not, and then for the second part to talk about the reloaded mode, how it improved on things and if it makes the game worth experiencing 20 years later. And then a third final part discussing a few problems I noticed out of the core of this game regardless of fan fixes, with some overall thoughts about the story and a little retrospect to see if this game truly deserved to be as ridiculed as it did. So with that out of the way, let's cover the basics, shall we? The game puts us behind the rocket boots of our titular character. After the events of Sonic Heroes, Shadow has been feeling a little tormented, unsure about his path or purpose, when he is suddenly approached by Black Doom, leader of the Black Arms aliens. An invasion has suddenly started and the Dark Creature orders Shadow to gather the Chaos Emeralds and follow his orders, so his past will be revealed. What Shadow does from this point on is up to you. In what I can only call a very ambitious move, Shadow the Hedgehog has a narrative tree that branches into 22 possible stages depending on which mission you decide to complete. You could take the evil path, obeying Black Doom's orders and wipe out any human resistance that lays in the path of the Black Arms in their quest for world domination. You could take the hero path, helping Sonic and his friends fend off the alien invasion and save the world. Or you could ignore either path and just focus on finding the Chaos Emeralds or simply getting to the end of each stage, just playing them normally. Whatever the case, the choice is 100% yours, and you know what? I actually like this. I did say the game has 22 possible stages, but to see the credits, all you need to do is complete 7 of them, each playthrough for each part taking about an hour or so. I heard a lot of horror stories about this game being even jankier than Sonic Heroes, but from my own playthrough I have to say, I actually like the basic gameplay here better than in Sonic Heroes. For once, it helps that the gameplay efforts are now 100% focused on a single playable character, Shadow. Call this a hot take, but I actually think this is the better evolution of the adventure style. All the elements for a fun obstacle course are here. Most stages are now bite-sized, taking me 8 to 10 minutes at most to get to the goal, never feeling lost or tired, and the controls feeling a bit more polished than usual. One thing I was scared of while trying out the other objectives on a second playthrough was watching the clock go by as I'd go hunting for the hero or dark missions. But even taking those out took less than 10 minutes thanks to a very mocked and memed addition, the guns. There's not too much to say. To avoid relying on the newly added melee combat, they added guns for you to pick and quickly clear small crowds and make you run even faster. So I appreciate that.
You can never defeat me.
Same way I appreciate the checkpoints becoming fast travel points so you don't have to spend too much time combing the levels for any leftovers. All in all, I had fun. I picked my route, rolled credits, and then can replay through a different path. So why was this game criticized? If it's only an hour long for each playthrough, why were the fans upset? Because once you are locked into a route, you cannot change it. You cannot replay a previous stage to correct the course, and since the game has 10 endings, it means you have to replay the game all over and pick the other choice, no reloading the final stage shortcut. The reason why some feel this is rather tedious is because it is a 2005 game. Even for a short 3D platformer, having a stage select after your first run should have been a no-brainer. It's a basic feature. Wiping the slate clean and having you start all the way back from Westopolis, it already starts to sound a bit exhausting, and I say this as somebody who put 27 hours into Sonic Heroes. Not helped by the fact that, just like how it happened in Heroes, missions requiring you to eliminate a fixed number of enemies can get a bit rough. Because when the game tells you to eliminate 45 enemies, is because that's the literal number of them available on the stage, so finding that one straggler can be a bit frustrating in early runs. So, knowing this, and knowing what other deep hidden systems are in this game, let's move over to Shadow the Hedgehog Reloaded. So, one of the first things the Reloaded mod does is fix most of the jank. Although I didn't have much issue with how Shadow controls in the base game, the mod does tweak things a bit. He feels a lot tighter to control, more responsive, and even with the usual 3D jank, my mistakes still felt like my own mistakes.
Over there! That's got one of the top secret discs! I got it! The first secret disc!
Damn, not here.
Then there is the biggest tweak that helps shave a lot of time off every playthrough. The stages that have you eliminating or finding a fixed number of enemies has been reduced, and I don't know if this is also part of the mod, but it feels there is more of them on screen, so you can complete the stage without having to slowly comb every bit of the map. Sometimes you don't even have to make it to the final checkpoint. Now, because the main paths are narrative focused, Shadow will get a companion depending on which mission you are doing. One particular quirk fans did not like was that these objectives will be swapped or interrupted because at some stages the companion for the opposing mission is waiting at different points at the stage, meaning you can get easily thrown off by these interruptions.
Hey, Shadow! That's one of the Chaos Emeralds! With that Chaos Emerald, you can unlock unlimited power!
Granted, you can manually change missions with the D-pad or in the pause menu, but these were a constant in the base game, so the Reloaded mode both gets rid of the little intro cinematics for each character and instead lets you pick a mission and stick with it regardless if the other companion is waiting at the fixed points. It doesn't sound like much, but it is a much needed step in the right direction. Another big point of contention for this game was that, much like with the other adventure-style games, you need to complete certain requirements to unlock the last story, aka the chapter where you get to see the true end. For this game in particular, you are originally meant to get all 10 endings. Now that I have experienced the game proper, I'll say it's not too bad, as most runs average between 45 minutes to an hour, maybe an hour and a half if you do the weaker levels, meaning you'll be clocking 10 to 12 hours before seeing the true end. Not too bad, but I can see why some will feel exhausted by this. Reloaded fixes this by making you see only 3 of the 10 endings. Better yet, after completing the last story, you even unlock expert mode, so no need to achieve A rank on everything. This kind of freedom actually had a fun effect in me. See, knowing I didn't have to play too much made me think I could just get the true ending and then work on this video, but instead I went on to unlock 7 of the 10 endings, technically 8 since in one run accidentally locked me into an ending I had already seen. But not being burdened by completion requirements made it a lot more fun for me to go out of my way to play every single stage the game has to offer. And to tell you the truth, I was having a grand old time.
Why are the soldiers doing this to us?
I'm noticing this has become a rarity, but I always say this in my videos, it is important to replay your games. One thing that made Shadow so much fun for me was replaying the levels. Since most of them are short and sweet, it means any further playthrough allow me to complete them a lot faster. That 8 to 10 minute run in Westopolis suddenly becomes a 4 to 6 minute replay, and the mission with fewer targets but larger stages even become a lot shorter since you had time to learn the layout. I was having so much fun that I didn't even feel the burnout I felt from the gargantuan levels of Heroes, and that's another important aspect. Games should make you want to play more, not be grateful that you finally roll credits. But of course, I am aware most of the fun I had came from the Reloaded mod, trimming the fat and removing most of the frustration. But there are still a number of flaws that not even this could fix. Starting with my biggest gripe, the damage sponges. There is a handful of missions in this game where you have to take down a single target across the entire stage. Usually this wouldn't be a problem. Sonic games have had plenty of these kind of set pieces like moments, except for this game, these are some of the only objectives that you can actually fail if the target makes it past the end of the level, and for all of them, you need to use guns to hit them. You also need to have them within range, and that is on top of being on the lookout for enemies from all factions aiming to kill you. And then there is the final most frustrating obstacle. The target is a bullet sponge, meaning your options are to either burn through as many guns as you can get from fallen enemies, or if you're on the vanilla game, gather all the hidden keys and grab a strong gun. Something the mod mercifully has unlocked from the start, as it replaced the keys with red rings for the sake of home completion.
We lost them, but I think we can still catch up. Let's go! Hey, he's on our side! Yes, we did it!
So basically, this is not a fun objective, and it is required if you are trying to follow that specific route. Otherwise, you'll get deviated into a different path. Vehicles are also something I am mixed about. Some of the better vehicles are the ones that help with the platforming. The others, like cars or the iconic bike that was promoted a lot in trailers, is not good. On one hand, it feels redundant as Shadow already runs very fast. On the other, they don't offer much of an advantage and instead run the risk of getting you killed.
That vehicle's pretty tough. Personally, I wouldn't be caught dead in a car without windows. Dropping bombs while running away? I've heard about road rage, but give me a break!
Not here.
Man, I thought we...
There are other minor problems I could complain about, like the levels where you need to collect a small number of things, but the stage is too large so it can take too long, or some of the final stages stretching a bit far if you do the hero mission. But those are small potatoes, not something I mind too much, because one thing these games have been making me relearn and appreciate is that I'm coming in with the idea I am going to replay them. That 20-minute run looking for the scientists becomes 8 minutes long because now I know where to look. There is one last thing I have to point out, and it's less of a complaint and more of something that amuses me. Although yeah, it is a flaw from a narrative perspective. Like I said before, I have respect for Team Sonic for having the ambition to make a choose-your-own-adventure style game. So much so, the game has 326 narrative paths, all with their own titles and implications, which should sound very impressive. Until you realize the cutscenes and the narrative of these stages are all set in stone. So there is virtually no real narrative cohesion. Now, I could dedicate an entire video to list all the many ways the story's tone and Shadow's character violently fluctuates, so instead I'll just share you my favorite example. The first stage of the game, Westopolis, has the 3 branching paths that will set off every playthrough. If you decide to do the neutral mission, which involves ignoring both Sonic and Black Doom and just getting to the goal, Black Doom will be shown less than happy with Shadow.
You've deliberately disobeyed me, Shadow.
No one tells me what to do. I have my own reasons for collecting the Chaos Emeralds.
You really don't understand the situation here, do you? Perhaps Professor Gerald has done more to your memory than I imagined.
The Professor?
Strange that you don't remember your maker.
What'd you say?
Silence! The ramifications of your disobedience will be severe.
But then, if you decide to continue ignoring everything and just stay on the neutral mission, you eventually get this.
I bet no one expected this baby could fly.
I transported this brilliant flying fortress to this planet over 2,000 years ago. It's magnificent, the perfect killing machine, ready to oppose terror in unimaginable ways.
And this is not an isolated incident. Depending on which mission you do, Shadow can violently change between good guy and relentless villain. Even more amusing, although the 10 endings are divided between Hero and Dark, some of the stages in the supposedly Dark path can have Shadow be just as heroic as if you were picking the Hero path, and some of the funniest, dumbest lines were even coming from the Hero path.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
Some will call this bad writing or localization issues. Me, I just love this. It's pure camp. I'm actually laughing with it, not at it.
A Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
But I can see why something like this disappointed fans so much at the time. I know it's easy to forget, but up until the release of this game, the entire lore of Shadow was limited to Sonic Adventure 2 and his surprising returning heroes. There were many questions following the events of these two games, so for Team Sonic to choose a branching narrative instead of committing to something more canonical, yeah, I remember reading the reactions at the time and they were not good. Still, having experienced both the main game and the reloaded mode, I can't help but feel this game is overhated. A trend that is becoming more common as I navigate these games through the lens of gamers and YouTubers who swore up and down this was the worst of the worst. If anything, I consider this a fun good mess. A flawed yet very fun little adventure. These characters' stories are Saturday morning cartoons, and any Sonic fans who thinks this should be considered quote-unquote mature because characters died or had tragic backstories need to really look at the harsher things media for even younger audiences have pulled. Even if the structure is flawed with scrambled levels, I can't help but like them. See them as smaller episodes of a bigger story. They really wanted to show Shadow more or less interacted with the other cast members, and it made for some fun bits, even if Shadow hardly has anything to say to them during gameplay.
A Chaos Emerald. This is just too easy. Guess it's my lucky day.
Well, well, if it isn't Shadow! Your timing is impeccable! You know that Eggman fella pretty well, don't ya? Well, we need your help to hack into his computer. Don't ask why, and we don't have any more time to waste!
Well, what a coincidence. I'd like to know what the good old doctor's up to as well.
I actually see myself replaying this game from time to time. I really couldn't get enough of the better levels, and with the ability to just play them without having to worry about story progression, I am going to be in for a treat. It is a bit sad when you think about it. The Sonic team actually had material and potential for a whole Shadow the Hedgehog trilogy if you look at Heroes, Shadow, and 06. If they themselves weren't struggling in finding a good footing on reinventing the franchise, they could have expanded greatly on it. But that's a conversation for another day. As it stands right now, I think I'll put Shadow Reloaded as one of the more fun 3D Sonic games I played. If you ever decide to play this, please use the Reloaded mod. Even with its flaws, it's a lot more liberating to play with less caveats, and putting up with the frustration of having to comb the maps to complete your objective. Part of me wishes Sonic Team had learned the right lessons from this game and were on their way to do something fantastic for the next entry, but if you have followed Sonic's history in the past 20 years, you know where this is going. I am going to be covering what is easily the most infamous entry, the game that changed Sonic's reputations and the repercussions that are still felt to this day. But I am going to do it in a rather different way. I have plans for Sonic 06, but instead of just dunking on it like most of the internet have done for nearly 2 decades, I'm gonna do something more fun and see how Sonic has been trying to move forward ever since.